Hey, what's up guys? Thanks for clicking on this video. This video is called Rectifying a Broken Life, and in this video I'm going to talk about how I'm in the process of trying to rectify my own broken life, my own broken heart, my ability to love others, trust others, love myself, forgive myself, and so on. And in the last video I talked about how I used to be a high school English teacher, and my career was ruined by a group of students who made a false allegation against me just to put me through the process. They made up a completely bogus story, not because they believed I would, suffer legal consequences. They did it just to humiliate me and to ruin my career and ruin my reputation and to put me through a process that was traumatic. So I'm going to talk about how that experience as a teacher was a sort of culmination to a failed career that spans multiple jobs in many years. And that experience that I had as an English teacher, I had mentioned it in the previous video, I had the realization that this was it, that this was the end of my career, and that in order for me to feel any sort of fulfillment out of life, I would have to do something that could surpass the impact of this. How was I ever going to be able to come back from something like this? I had already lost my job from the pandemic and had some personal struggles, but I had chosen to become an English teacher, get a certification, take all the tests to do it, because I believed that I was going to create a better life for myself, and I would be in a career that was finally well suited for me. But that didn't happen. That did not happen. Instead, my career as a teacher was very short-lived, and my reputation was destroyed. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how it all started, and I'm going to talk about something that recently happened that has brought me to a new place and has me viewing my whole career from a very different perspective. And I'm making this video because I feel separated from the person that I once was, and I feel like my mind is rapidly transforming to something better. Instead of a spiral downward, it feels more like a spiral upward. And the further and further I go, the faster and faster these changes seem to be occurring. So to start this story, we're going to just go back to the last video that I posted, which was a healing prayer and meditation for others like me who survived a false allegation or who were perhaps a victim of cancel culture, which is evil. So in that video, I talked about how, this false allegation was very detrimental to my very core. And after that experience, I moved on to a different job, and I have a remote job. It's just something that is very impersonal. Like, I'm very isolated. I'm at home all the time. It's very sedentary, and I have plenty of time to ruminate on the past, to think about where did I go wrong and what things could I have changed to maybe have a better outcome. And what happened just a few days ago last week was I had gone for a long walk, and then I had gone into Publix to get a sub from the deli for dinner. And when I approached the deli clerk, I realized it was actually one of the students that was from that class. where the group of students made the false allegation. She was in that class. She was a part of that group. She wasn't one of the ones who had done it. She wasn't one of the ones that was on the video talking about me. But she was a part of that group. You know, she hung out with those kids. She was very much a part of it. And when I walked up to the sandwich line and she looked up at me, she looked at me and she recognized me right away. And then I recognized her. And when I did, all of the anger and the hatred that I had experienced for 3 years started to bubble to the surface of my being. And my face turned hard as stone. And my eyes were like a hungry lion ready to rip its prey to shreds. And I stared at this girl while she made my sandwich. And I stared at her with the evil eye, pretty much just thinking in my head, silently, watching her make this sub. And I saw that she was starting to, become nervous. Her face turned red. Her eyes got heavy. I could see with her hands and her body language, she was very uncomfortable. And all of the feelings that were pouring out of me most likely seemed to be rushing back to her. As I stood in front of her staring at her, it was like the memory of what had been done to me was resurfacing in her own being. And she even forgot my sub order kind of like right after I told her, because the shock of seeing me had her in a really frazzled, nervous, anxious state. She could barely get through making this sub, is what it was all about. And, she was like pouring on the lettuce, just not even thinking. And I could have said anything. And this is one of the students that I thought, man, if I ever see her again, I'm just going to unload on her verbally. I'm just going to verbally degrade her until she is just not even a person anymore, until she's just a worm in the dirt. That's what I thought about for many years. I thought, if I ever see these punks again, I'm just going to verbally degrade them and just destroy them right to their face, look right in their eyes and just basically dehumanize them through language. And when I was standing right in front of this girl as she struggled to make this sandwich for me, I felt no need to say anything, because I was giving her a piece of my mind, which didn't require speech. And I could see that as her face changed, as I stared at her, looking at her eyes, I saw the same facial expression that was the same face that I've worn for years. And it's a face that is sad. Her eyes were heavy. She looked like she had the weight of the world on her shoulders, like there was a dark cloud over her. And that look is a look of self-loathing. It's a look of sadness, depression, no self-confidence, feeling like you're worthless, feeling like you're nobody, feeling like, you're just nothing to the world, that it wouldn't make a difference if you were there or not. That's how I felt about myself for many years. And this interaction is just something that was meant to be, because she probably made the next person sub and thought nothing of it. But she could barely get through making a sandwich for me, because standing in front of her was a man that had been disrespected, dehumanized, humiliated to the absolute breaking point. And she stood in front of me and she made that sub. She could barely look at me when she handed it to me. She pretty much fled to the back of the deli after that. And that was it. That moment was just meant to be. It was meant for me to see that, to get to a new place of self-reflection about all of this. Because all that I really remember from her in that class was the last thing I saw that last day before I had just stopped showing up to the class anymore. I just quit. And, you know, when she was making that sub for me and she felt me stare her down, she probably thought, this guy really, really hates me. He really, really hates me. And it's funny because that's the same thing that I thought when I was in that classroom, and when I had returned, you know, after being cleared of this bogus allegation, I came back to the class and realized that all these students believed I was guilty of something. They thought that they had the right to harass me and do all this stuff, even though I was there, even though I was physically there. They just used it as an opportunity to hate on me, to hate me. And when I was sitting in that class and they were just harassing me to no end and even threatening me, some of the students did. I had to have the principal in the room for a lot of this. And the way that I had looked up with them realizing, you know, why did you do this? Like, why do you hate me? And they just looked back at me, you know, a group of maybe 40 high school students, and they just were grinning like demons. That was the last thing I remember from that experience. They doubled down on their hatred of me. And when I looked up at them and I had realized that, I was like, wait, you actually think that I am guilty of something? Like, what would it take for you to get the picture? And I just remember my heart sinking when I looked up at them, and I just realized that they're just going to hate me just because they want to hate. That was the last thing I remembered from that experience. And after all these years, it just all builds up to this moment of walking into the Publix deli and then having this girl make me a sandwich and staring her down while she did it. And, you know, the thing that's kind of ironic about it all is that, you know, the younger generation, Gen Z, whatever you want to call them, they've been raised in this woke culture, this cancel culture, where they feel like it's justified to ruin a person's reputation just because they hate them. And this is a serious problem in our world right now. We live in a world of no accountability, where people can do things, they can harm others, and they can just get away with it, like these students did. And it was just kind of funny because it was a group of girls who had this vendetta against, you know, a male teacher like me, and how, you know, they have this sort of hatred towards men. And I guess the last thing they would want to do is make a man a sandwich. And she had the privilege of doing that. But after I had gotten home, I thought, well, you know, she's going to be making many sandwiches for me from now on. The sort of surprise of seeing her kind of wore off, and I really thought back to what I had seen, which was seeing her with those heavy eyes and seeing that, you know, in her eyes, there was no love there. There was no love, no warmth, no self-respect, no sense of pride, nothing bright at all. It was just, like I said, a dark cloud. And, you know, you really can't be around people who are like this, because they will only drag you down. That's why I think they did it to me, was they saw that I was, you know, pretty relatively happy, positive person, and they wanted to destroy my heart. And pretty much the way that this story sort of completes itself is from the way that we kind of have to go back to one of the first jobs I had right after college, almost 20 years ago. And when I had just graduated from college, I was in the field of marketing. You know, I had graduated and I got a job as a marketing coordinator working for this company. And I was in my early 20s, and I had a supervisor who was a few years older than me. And this supervisor was the quintessential girl boss. You know, she knew how to use corporate speak. She had a degree in HR. She was very ambitious, and she radiated ambition. Like she had that sort of chicklet smile, you know, real white teeth. But there was an intensity about this person. And, you know, with her degree in HR, she had a master's degree in HR, she knew how to force out employees that she didn't like at the company. And what happened to me when I was working with her, this was my first job after college and outside of internships and whatnot. But during this job, I was doing very well for the first year. And all of a sudden, when I had my second evaluation, she deliberately slams me in the review, even though it was like opposite of the one prior. And she said, yeah, because you fell short on these 2 marks right here, I'm going to have a coaching plan to help you correct these things, which it was all very ambiguous, because that's how it is when a supervisor is only using a performance improvement plan to force you out of your job. And this was a very common thing. This was like a new thing in the early 2000s. You know, when the economy tanked at the end of the Bush administration, when the housing crisis and everything like that in 2008, 2009, companies would just put employees that they wanted to get rid of on performance improvement plans so that they had a justified way of firing them, so that they wouldn't have to pay a severance or wouldn't have to pay for the unemployment benefits of just laying you off. So they would want to position it to make it look like, you know, you were inadequate at the job, which is a very dangerous thing for a person who's enduring that. This is one of the most toxic things that you can do, because it's fraud. It's fraudulent. You're making up lies about somebody, and you're basically, in this process, you're destroying their ability to trust anybody else. Like, you should be able to trust your supervisor more than anybody at your job. This is a person that you should defer to. You know, this is a person that you're working for. There should be a supportive thing going on between an employee and their supervisor. But the supervisor that I had was the type of person who viewed anyone under her as a threat. So pretty much what happened in this job, this was years ago, this is why it set forth a pattern that culminated with the false allegation. So pretty much at this job, when I was on the performance improvement plan, I noticed that there was 2 or 3 other employees who had quit, who also reported to her. And I called one of them up, and that employee told me, yes, this is what the supervisor does. She'll put people on these coaching plans, these action plans, just to force them to quit. And this person had got another job and told me, you know, just look for another job, because, you know, they're going to fire you at the end of this coaching plan. And so this infuriated me and made me very vengeful towards this supervisor. So during this 3-month period, I just would document all of these instances in which I was given a task and then they would prevent me from actually completing it. And there's no point in going into all this detail, but there was a chain of emails that I saved, because when someone is lying and doing something wrong, or, you know, telling lies, you can expose them. And so I thought I was, you know, so big and bad because I had accumulated all of this evidence that the boss was abusing her power. And so pretty much what happened was the day came, it was the end of the day of the 90-day plan or whatever, and I had this folder of everything I had already prepared for this moment, and of course, the boss fired me in this meeting with this other douchebag he was such a jerk to me at this company. Like, I would say, "Hey, what's going on? How are you?" And he would just be like, "I don't know, what's going on?" He would, like, he couldn't just be a nice person, And I was so surprised that these were the sort of people that were in the higher positions, that they could be so rotten and reek of hatred and, insecurity, really, when you look back on it. Like, if you're the type of person who, if someone says, "Hey, what's going on?" and, is just trying to be friendly, and then you turn around and say, "I don't know, what's going on? I don't know, what's up? Hey, what's up? How you doing? I don't know, what's up?" What kind of person is that? It's like they respond immediately because they hate you. So that was my experience in the first job. And so what had happened was all the evidence I had from being abused on this performance improvement plan, I, took it to HR, and HR, their eyes go wide, and they told me to come back the very next day with a letter written up kind of explaining all this documentation. So, I had to write it was like an 8-page letter. I was so full of anger towards this person. I wanted to destroy them, because I had just signed a lease on an apartment, and, my parents, I had to deal with the shame of, losing this job. My parents were like, "You cannot quit this job. You better not quit this job." So my back was up against the wall with that way back then. Even though quitting the job is the healthiest thing that you can do, just get out of the situation, because these people will destroy you. They will drag you down. And what happened to me was, I wrote this 8-page letter to HR, and they opened an investigation into the termination. Like, they escalated it to employee assistance, and they investigated my supervisor. And this entailed interviewing all these people in the department about me. And pretty much the boss found out that she was being investigated by HR, and she freaked out. I heard this from a coworker after I left, and that she pulled everyone in the office and told them exactly what to say about me. And, this went on for 30 days that she was investigated. But this wasn't punishment enough in my mind. I wanted to completely destroy her. So what I had done was, 30 days passed, and I get this letter in the mail from the company saying, "We're upholding the termination, but you're eligible to reapply for a position that you're qualified for." So the day that I got that letter, I got in my car that night, sometime around 10 o'clock or whatever, and I had worked in marketing, and one of the last projects that I had done was a brochure about heart disease, because I was in the healthcare industry with this. And, I wrote this whole brochure about heart disease, how to prevent heart disease through walking and, very basic, simple things that anyone can do. And, I wrote a whole brochure about it, and I had 2 boxes of these brochures in the trunk of my car that they never asked for and forgot about. So when I got that letter from HR employee assistance saying, "You're still fired, but you can reapply," that night I drove past the office, and I went to the parking lot, and in the leadership parking spot that the supervisor parked at, I took the boxes of brochures and just dumped them right in the parking spot. It was a mountain of red and white brochures about heart disease. And, I thought it was so funny, I thought that I was really, doing something. And I told my friend about it, and he laughed and said, "Did you go by the scene of the crime? You always return to the scene of the crime," because I had drove by the very next day during the daytime, and I saw that a gust of wind, it was a windy day, and had blown the brochures just all over the place. So they were all in front of the building. They were just like leaflets everywhere. And, it was something that was kind of a joke, you know? And so not only did I do that, I came home then, and there was a site that I found just through Google. You know, back in the day, there was a site called ratemyprofessor.com, and there was a similar site that had been created around this time period because workplace bullying was prevalent. It was a very common thing when the economy tanked and they were laying people off. All these shady things were going on where people were losing jobs. This was that you could see that there was, in fact, around that time, there was some employee at some engineering firm or whatever, you know, not too far from my building. It was just a few miles away, who, you know, was fired from their job, and he came back, and then he had a gun, and, you know, they had to lock down the whole building, and he ended up shooting someone and then got arrested and all that kind of stuff. Is now doing, I think, he killed someone, so he's doing like life in prison for it. And, you know, this was a guy who, got, you know, lost his job, and it was the same type of story. They put on a performance improvement plan. They forced him out of the job. They fired him for quote unquote performance reasons. And then the guy ended up getting divorced, and then he had to get a job working at Subway as a sandwich artist, which is another funny thing about this whole story I'm telling you, how it keeps coming back to making sandwiches. So this guy, you know, he was stewed over it, and then he, you know, went postal at the old employer, and I don't even think that he killed the main target, his boss. It was somebody else he shot and killed. So that's what can happen when you live in such a toxic place like America, with the work culture is just so sick. So the long and short of it is that, you know, I went online, and this site that was out there was like Rate My Boss type thing. I put my boss on there, and it was just like an objective survey, like, does your boss support you as a employee, you know, this type of thing. And I just rated no for everything, you know, just to, that was the whole point of the site, was to just get them front facing in Google, so that if you just type in their name, they're going to come up on this site. So that's exactly what happened to my supervisor, my former supervisor. Like, I basically slammed them on this website, and to my happiness, right, I found out that she found out. So a couple years later, after this, she Googled herself, found that I had put her on the site. She didn't know it was me, but of course she would know based off of what I put in the comments, was that, you know, this is a supervisor that abuses power and puts employees on performance improvement plans just to force them out of the job. And, you know, so she saw all this, and she would look at my LinkedIn profile. Like, I caught her looking at my LinkedIn profile at one point during kind of like around that time period. It was about, you know, 2 or 3 years after this whole thing happened that she found it. And she tried to rate herself back and leave a positive comment. And then I just went on another device and then rated her down again. And it became like this sort of, we're like lifelong enemies, you know, through nothing but our own psyches in the internet. You know, it's just, we're living rent-free in one another's mind. You know, she probably hated me just as much as I hated her, because I really did threaten her career after what had happened. You know, but to me it was never enough, because when you seek revenge, it never is enough. It never is enough. So what ended up happening was, you know, all these years went by, and, you know, I remember before I had sent the letter with all the documentation and everything, before I sent that to HR, employee assistance, you know, my dad had advised me. He said, don't do it. He said, just move on. He said, don't do it, just move on. And there was no reason why, but I see now that he was probably right, that I shouldn't have done that, because, you know, your actions do dictate how things move forward. And the thing is that with me, all I had ahead of me was just a failed career from that point, that culminated with just a bunch of punk students making a false allegation and then putting my reputation out of its misery entirely. Like, so when you look at about 20 years of jobs I had, I'm proud of none of it. I'm proud of none of it, because it was always the same reiteration of the same type of thing. You know, me constantly being afraid of my boss, constantly worried about, you know, they're trying to put me on a performance improvement plan, or, you know, this boss is jealous of me and is trying to take me out just because I'm a good worker, and they're insecure about their job. That was the line of thinking that dominated my whole entire career. So this went on, and then, you know, I finally lost a job that I had from the pandemic that was pretty much a dead-end job anyway. And during the time that I was unemployed, you know, I had made the decision, you know, let's do something else with your life, get out of the corporate private sector, you know. And I had always wanted to be an English teacher because I love stories and I love writing and all that. I feel like it really does something for you when you study great works of literature, because so much of the human experience is in great literature. It tells us so much about ourselves. And, you know, I go into this job during this woke world, and even the first year was rough for me. And I didn't want to do it after that first year, but I was kind of forced to take the job again because I couldn't find another job over the summer. So I ended up having to take this terrible class that was even worse than the first year. But, you know, it was all about how being in class with these kids of this generation, they cannot stand, the girls especially hated the male teachers. They hate male authority. So they would do anything to try to destroy me. And pretty much what happened after that second year teaching, after these girls tried to destroy my life, you know, I left that job and I kind of disappeared, and I was able to get a remote job that I still work at to this day. And the other thing that's important to note is that I'm a musician, I'm a guitar player, and all throughout my terrible failed career in the corporate world, whenever these things would happen, I would put all my energy into getting better and better at guitar. And right before this incident happened at the school, that second year teaching, I had actually gotten a job as a guitar instructor. And because I'm very passionate about the guitar, I've been playing most of my life. There was childhood, and then I got a guitar, and then the guitar has been with me for 20-something years, maybe even almost 30 years at this point. And through teaching, you know, I honed my craft and was able to start getting out there professionally. You know, I'd play open mic nights at different cafes, bars, this type of thing. And then I have a loop pedal, so I would, you know, play chords, play a groove, loop it, and then improvise over it. And through this experience, you know, I would usually play somewhere, and then the people who worked at the cafe would say, hey, you know, if we paid you like $100, would you come out and play for like 4 hours on a Sunday or something? This is pretty much how my little semi-professional music career started. And so pretty much what had happened was, you know, this has been going on for a couple years, pretty much ever since the incident, because I started performing when I was under investigation. Like, basically what happened was I had a mental breakdown, and in the mental breakdown, like, the superego came out of the flames of, like, the phoenix. Like, if you picture the phoenix, like, coming out of the flame, the superego, which is, that's the version of myself that's the closest to the divine, because the person that I am on stage when I'm improvising, I'm in a totally dissociated state. It's me and the music. I'm just one with the music. And I put my heart into it. I just feel my heart open up, and the music comes flooding out. And so the way that this story ends is that I was coming home from the cafe that I was playing at, and I just received a Zelle transaction for $120. And I was at a traffic light, and when I looked up at the traffic light, I saw I was in front of my old marketing office from my first job that I got fired from with the boss with the performance improvement plan. And the building had been knocked down. It was in the process of being knocked down. and half of it was destroyed. This is what you're looking at right now. This is the exact office that I was fired in almost 20 years ago. And, you know, just looking at it, even like in the photograph, like the blue walls, I remember everything. You know, I remember being in that very room that you're looking at and sitting in the room with that psychotic boss and that douchebag, and, you know, her walking me out, following me out with a box for my belongings, which I had already cleared out my desk because I knew I was going to be fired. I wasn't going to, you know, I wasn't going to participate in that aspect of the humiliation ritual. And yeah, I was looking at this building destroyed, you know, gaping open. And that's why I took the picture of it. And it was just so crazy because, like, I got this Zelle transaction for playing, and a compliment from the owner of the cafe saying, you know, feedback was great, thank you. You know, thanking me for making music. And I just thought, wow, you know, I feel like life is coming full circle. And so even though I kind of developed this alter ego as a musician, this guitar player, you know, my life still was burdened with these feelings, the post-traumatic stress and all this type of stuff. And there was a problem within me brewing for a very long time, you know, probably for many years. And what had been going on with me was working this remote job. I'm very sedentary, and especially in the winter time, I wouldn't even go outside. And with the low self-esteem that I pretty much always have, this aura of self-loathing, you know, since this incident happened, you know, being isolated, being in my room and just working remote, I started to actually develop the early symptoms of cardiovascular disease. So now you can kind of see where the heart disease brochures are really a significant symbol, because the night that I dumped all those heart disease brochures in my boss's leadership parking spot at that company, it was symbolic of me neglecting my own heart. It was basically symbolizing me losing my ability to love. The health of my heart from that moment pretty much started to slowly decline. And these feelings of self-loathing, these feelings of hatred, these feelings of anger towards everything on the outside of me, people, society, political ideologies, all of this stuff, it consumed me for most of my adult life. Being frustrated, angry, resentful. That's just kind of who I became as a person, deep down. And, you know, you can see this in someone, especially when you look at them from far away. There was when I was working out with this one job, I had been outside doing work, and then the people inside of the office, inside of the branch, I was working at a car rental place, one of my failed jobs. This was before the pandemic, and then I had walked in to the office after being outside and doing something with the cars, and this guy had said, you doing all right? And I was like, yeah, why? And he's just like, we were just looking at you through the window, and I just saw the saddest man I'd ever seen. And I was like, no, I'm fine. It's funny, when you look at someone from far away, you can really see their true colors. And so, pretty much, you know, when I had made that video I had last posted, you know, I was reaching the end of my rope. I was realizing, like, I can't feel this way anymore. And that's why I had turned to the book of Psalms. And I made that video about it, because only when I read Psalms 6 and 7 was the weight lifted. Like, you could say that this was my moment in which I had turned to God. And I literally had, because it was like magic. It was real magic. When I had read these 2 verses in Psalms, years of frustration, years of self-loathing, years of self-hatred, years of hating others, it all just vanished from within me. It all just sort of was absolved. It disappeared. And all I wanted for so long was some justice. That's all I wanted. I wanted to experience it. I wanted to feel it. Like, I wanted to get that payback. And then, what had happened then was I had started going on walks, very long walks, because I had this pent-up rage, and I realized, like, I don't walk enough. And so what had happened was I went for, like a 3-mile walk, and then my legs from my butt to my toes was on fire. And I realized I'm suffering from the early symptoms of venous insufficiency, circulation problems, heart disease. So after I had walked, I took a salt bath and was like, my muscles and blood vessels and everything, it all started to heal. Like, I realized that by physically helping my heart, by physically trying to care for my heart, I could feel that the spiritual aspect of my heart was starting to become rectified. So, after a long walk, I just walk into Publix just to get a sub, and right in front of me is that girl from that class. And it was like a full circle. It was a full circle. And I realized this was the thing that had happened to me. It was, that these experiences when I was younger shaped my mental, spiritual, and physical health now. And so I realized that it was from neglecting my heart. I always would scoff at ideas about forgiveness. Like, what does that even mean? And let's say, somebody does something to you, and years later you find out something bad happened to them. Even if a little part of you is happy about that, it kind of renders the forgiveness obsolete. It's useless. It's like, it doesn't matter, And I thought, no human being is ever really capable of forgiving another human being. But now I'm not so sure about that. Now I think that anything could be possible, because when we try to pin down what it is that we hate, is that the truth, or is that just an opinion? Is it real, or is it an illusion? Like, what is the truth? Maybe these kids really felt bad about what they had done. Maybe it was sort of thing that they already got their punishment. I didn't even know it. But what I do know is when I saw that person, when I looked at that girl with her head down, low self-esteem, she's got her hairnet on, just making that sub for the man that she disrespected for a whole school year, and just watched me be humiliated. Like, when I was looking at her, I saw in her eyes, it was the same look that I had been wearing for my whole adult life. And it's a look of self-hatred. You can never love anybody else if you don't love yourself. And this is pretty much the lesson that I learned from all this. You have to physically take care of yourself. You have to physically take care of the heart in order for it to feel any kind of love. I feel so much empathy towards people who have low self-esteem, who have a poor self-image. Because when I look at them, I see myself. And so, sorry, I gotta take a drink here. So basically, that's my story. It's been a journey to arrive at a place of peace. And there's no peace in hell. And that's what I was living through for most of my life, is this restless, post-traumatic stress ridden place on the inside. No peace. I couldn't even, take a look at my own surroundings and realize that I have a very good life. To be in a cool pool, my neighborhood has a pool in it, in the shining sun, and to still have that heavy dark cloud over your head, still thinking about the past, still dwelling on the next failure. That's pretty much it. So I wanted to share this video because, the moment that I actually turned to God, I started reading these Psalms, was I able to transcend and let go finally. It's funny when someone gets fired, they say, oh yeah, he got let go. And it's just so funny because that person who gets quote unquote let go is going to have a hard time letting go. And that's just pretty much it. So the whole point of me sharing this story is not to offer advice to anybody, but to really point at what could really be going on right now. Like, I see these videos with these men on YouTube, these young men especially. Like, there's one guy I see all the time. He's in this dark basement. Every thumbnail is him in his dark basement, and he's just underground, where the worms are. And, all these videos that he posts are always about how much he hates society, how much he hates other people, that everybody's dumb nowadays. Read books like me. I'm so smart. That's me all the way, man. That's how I used to think about everyone and everything. I'm the smart one. You're all dumb. I got it figured out. You're all clueless. No, I know how human beings really are. They're terrible, right? That was my line of thinking, but who else thinks like that? All the people who are your enemies, pretty much. It's just, we're not too much different from the people that we hate. There's something there, there's some kind of connection. And, the point of this video is, again, I'm not trying to offer advice. I'm just trying to share my story of how you can see a clearer picture of your life. You can see things in a much crystal clear lens when you finally are able to let go. You're able to see that everything is connected, that, it's the brokenheartedness. When people break your heart, you lose your ability to love and trust others. This is the worst thing that can happen to a human being. Because when your heart is full, you're able to laugh. You're able to feel good. You're able to enjoy yourself. The next person that you meet is a friend, not like, what's this person trying to get me into? I remember, when my mindset was so negative, I remember I just thinking like, I can't even go into the cookie shop in the city without some panhandling bum fentanyl addict trying to say, sir, and flag me down to get me into some kind of trouble that they're into, or scam me in some type of way. And, I would just dwell on how bad the world has become. And the reason, though, that the world has become so bad is because the human heart has been neglected. And the more that we cut each other off from being around others, talking to each other verbally instead of sending messages, the way that everything has been run through the filter of the machine, all this stuff has impacted the human spirit and the human heart. And that's why you see so many people who are so miserable right now. Hate is at an all-time high. And, things didn't used to be like this because we were all much more connected just by talking to each other, just from being around each other. we live in this world nowadays where remote work is supposed to be good because you don't have to talk to people, right? You don't have to be around people. Why have we gotten to this point where other people are quote unquote bad, that they're the thing to avoid? You know, in this remote job that I have now, around the time I had this turning to God, it was right around that time that, you know, we did a team building day and went bowling, you know, and during a game of bowling where we're all just, you know, you put on the bowling shoes, you can moonwalk like Michael Jackson on the carpet, everyone gets a ball, and then we're just knocking over some pins, and it feels so great when you hit a strike, and anyone can. You know, during these 3 hours that we spent bowling together, nobody talked about work, nobody talked about, you know, their politics. Everyone was able to put away their, you know, specific opinions about things and just have a good time together. And it changed things for me. It was one of the greatest days I had in so long. So the whole point of this video is to really shine some light on where the trouble really is. It's in the health of the heart of everybody. You know, when you take a look around, like, all these people are so obese and whatnot, their hearts are failing. You know, when you hear society talk about things like self-love and all that, it's a society of self-loathing. That's what it really is. It's kind of like how people, you know, the toxic positivity masks the negativity that everybody's experiencing. You know, you have to trumpet this message of positive when there's so much negativity around. Like, if things are going well and it's normal for things to be positive, you don't have to put signs up everywhere saying good vibes only, you know? So in a nutshell, that's just pretty much my story, you know? And, you know, anyone going through this, you know, if you, like, let's say you are in some job and, you know, you get put on a performance improvement plan, just stop showing up. Just walk away. Turn away. Because if you don't, you could get caught in a whirlpool of hatred that's going to suck away your ability to love and trust others, including yourself. And this is the definition of hell. So, how funny it is, you know, I realize, like, I can't do this on my own. These health problems, I don't know what, you know, and God had showed me that I needed to walk. You know, it pushed me to the point where it's like, I realized I was finally able, everything built up where I knew what had actually been going wrong. So, you know, I hope that this is helpful, and all I gotta say is, I'm the king of negativity. I'm the doomer king. I've worn this crown for years, for my whole career, and it's been nothing but a failed career, but it's over. And I'm in this post-career world where, you know, yeah, I do have this remote job, but there's great things about it. And, you know, fortunately, because I was able to channel my anger somewhat positively, you know, I've been able to turn my talent with music into a professional skill. So I'm just gonna try to keep furthering that and try to help as many people as possible. So thanks for listening. Hope you have a great night.